It's tutorial time at the Become Project. Today I'm going to be answering your questions about this week's routine. We're going to cover an alternative for the warm-up. We're going to talk about the curtsy lunge and knee pain in the leg series. And then I'm also going to dive a little bit into the oblique series. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to start by providing you with some alternatives for the warm-up. This is going to be really great for anyone who is experiencing a hip cramping, hip popping, or for anyone who doesn't want to lay all the way down to the floor. The alternatives that you see here, you can mix and match to create the perfect series for you. So let me show you what it looks like. The initial part is the same. So we're holding this figure 4 position with the legs, which is a really, really great stretch for your hamstrings, for your hips, the whole thing, okay? So we're gonna begin by reaching side, tipping over, that's a nice side stretch. Stretching forward, this is 3-4. Now when we roll down on 5-6, you can roll down to your forearms like so, instead of taking it all the way down to the floor. And then when you pull your leg in and up on 7-8, you'll notice in the video we're moving to a long straight leg. But if you have tight hamstrings or tight hips, this position may not feel super comfortable. So when you bring your leg in on 7-8, just take it to a bent knee and bring your knee into your chest. Now the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna stabilize your hips and you're gonna stabilize your ribs. I say this because I want you to understand that your core is very, very involved in this position. All of this tightens up to stay stable so that we can stir our knee or we can stir our leg in the hip socket. So my rotation, the thing that normally looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, really big, you're gonna make that smaller. You're gonna open up the knee, 1, 2, then you're gonna let it fall down a little bit, just give it a nice circle around. We're achieving the same benefit here because the goal is to stabilize the hips and then let the leg move freely in that socket. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. You're gonna lift yourself up on 5, 6. Notice I use the arms, big stretch forward, then you switch the legs. Let's see that one more time, okay? I'm gonna reach 1, I'm gonna tip side stretch on 2, stretching forward 3 and 4. I roll down maybe to the floor, but maybe to the forearms 5, 6. I drag the knee into the chest 7, 8. Now I let my knee fall open so it goes to turn out 1, abs stay tight, 2, 3, 4, nice and small. Then kick yourself up, 5, push 6, switch the legs, 7 and 8. The next thing I want to talk about is knee pain in the curtsy lunge. So I want to start by explaining a little bit as to why you may be feeling a sensitive knee when you do the curtsy lunge, and then I'll show you options on how to make this series work for you. So knees are essentially designed to move straight forwards and backwards. They don't typically like to move inwards and outwards. So knees prefer to go straight back and forth and not so much side to side. If you have a super stable knee joint, you're able to do a little bit more side to side, such as holding your feet in turnout, and look at that, I just went into a curtsy lunge, and allowing yourself to fall into that side position. But if you have a weaker knee, this position may never feel good for you. So we have to alter the curtsy lunge a little bit to make it work. So a strong knee joint curtsy lunge would look like starting in turnout. Then when you tap over to the side, you maybe go back really far, you sink into it, you make sure the knee is behind the ankle, okay? And this will feel just fine. If it doesn't feel fine, I want you to start by changing up your range of motion, okay? So you could still do your squat and turnout, but when you tap your leg over, instead of reaching it all the way over here, I want you to cut that range in half, maybe even more. I want you to only tap the toe back here. So look, it would go 1, 2, little bend 3, up on 4, center on 5. Okay, so step 1 in this series is to not cross your leg back as far as you normally would. If that still doesn't relieve the knee pain, then you're actually gonna switch your initial foot position. So instead of starting in a turnout squat, you're gonna bring your toes to parallel and you're gonna take a squat here. This becomes count 1. When you tap on count 2, it's very similar. You're not crossing all the way back here. You're gonna cut that cross so that this foot doesn't cross over this foot. That makes some sense? So this would be 1. I'm not gonna let my feet cross. I'm just gonna tap it back. 2. Then I'm gonna take a little lean forward. All I'm doing is weighting my working leg. Then lift the chest back up, that's 4. And then come to my center squat on 5. Also, when you do this series, you wanna be really mindful of the lower back. So when we take that little tap back, we do a slight lean of the chest forward. Now, the chest coming forward is not as falling or dumping, right? So here I'm like rounding my spine to go down, and then I may arch my spine to come back up. Can you all see that? Right now, all of the movement is in this part of the spine, and that's not gonna feel good. Let me show you how you change it. I tap over, this stays super long. Now I'm gonna hinge here from the hips. I'm gonna stay lengthened as I extend weight forward. Didn't go very big, right? Now I'm gonna keep that nice long chest, tight torso. I'm gonna pull that back up. This should correct the lower back. If it doesn't, I would say don't tip forward at all. Just come here and hold. Focus on keeping the belly pulled in, and I think that should correct any issues with the lower back. Now let's talk about the twist. So if you've worked out with me for a while, you know that I really like counter work when doing exercises. It's a great way to work the body. And the twist in this series offers a counter to the curtsy lunge, okay? So when we're in that curtsy, right, there's a lot of weight loaded on this leg, super stable. But then when we move into the twist, that leg gets to open up and release and get some length and stretch. So we want to make sure that we can figure out a way to make this twist work for you. Now, if you're super flexible, not only in your legs and your hip, but also in your back, good for you. You may be able to take this twist really low, including all the way down to the floor to twist up. To be completely honest, I myself like to keep this one a little bit smaller. So I just want to show you again what that looks like, okay? I'm gonna do it not in the turnout as though my knees are feeling tender today. This is 1. I do a tiny tap on 2. Hinging from the hips, keeping a long chest on 3. Lifting back up on 4. I go to center on 5. Now I'm going to bring my hand down on 6. I'm gonna push my working leg to straight, and then I'm gonna see how far my body wants to turn open. If it's all the way, great. But for some of us, you may just be looking to the side. And that's it. Okay, wanna see that one more time, nice and small? So we go 1 little tap, 2, hinging 3, up, 4, to the center on 5, hand down 6, straighten the legs, 7 little twist in, 8, start over. Yeah? I want to try to drive this home today, but when you do movements, getting it small and contained and like tight, activating all of your muscles, making it really, really tiny, you will actually end up feeling more than when you try to do it big. Moving smaller doesn't make it easier, it makes it more stable. And when something is more stable, you're able to get the true benefits of the work. So in this series today, small, absolutely okay. You may notice that the oblique series this week is similar to an oblique series that we worked last week. And I actually provided tutorials on this move last week, so I highly recommend watching some of the things that I told you there. The only difference between the oblique in this week's routine and the oblique in last week's routine, specifically talking about the reach and pull, is that last week I didn't have you moving your head, chest, or neck at all. It was just the hip. And this week, I'm having you extend a little bit more and round in. Number 1, If when you do the full rounding of the spine, you feel neck pain, I want you to switch it up so that you don't move the upper half. In other words, go back, watch last week's tutorial, and follow those steps in this series. If your neck is feeling good, you're not experiencing a lot of tension here, and it feels nice to round the spine, then go right ahead and start to work some of that spinal flexibility, okay? So that's the difference between last week and this week. If you are feeling any wrist pain in this portion, watch last week's tutorial as well, because that's gonna help you out through all of those steps. I'm not gonna cover them again this week. Next, we'll talk about the twist. I remember when I made up this oblique series, and I did it because I was experiencing a lot of shoulder tension, and I really wanted to find a way to incorporate some kind of spinal / shoulder stretch right in the middle of an oblique. So something you need to know about this twist is it's not gonna feel the same sensation that you would get, say, if you were doing like a twisted plank, okay? It's not meant to be like at a 10 as far as intensity. This one should feel a little bit lighter, and there's nothing wrong with that, okay? So when you do this move, reach, I pull up and hold. I want to take a twist under, and when I do, I'm first going to push my hips backwards. When my hips go backwards, look y'all, there's zero tension on this wrist, okay? And then I'm gonna pull my bottom arm underneath. So this is a really, really great spinal stretch. Now when you pull back up, it's not a matter of taking your weight forward and over your wrist like this, wrong way. Instead, you're gonna keep your weight pulled backwards. You're gonna cinch that hip up and in, and you're gonna squeeze here at the top. Do you see the difference of where I landed? Not out here. Keep it back here, and then cinch your little waist in. So one more time, here's my pull. I'm gonna push backwards, twist under, nice gentle stretch, good for your body. As I come up, I'm going to tug my arm underneath. I'm gonna stay pulled back. I'm going to grip through my oblique before pressing down again. Down, down, lift, up, scoop, cinch. One more, go down, 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 scoop, up, and cinch.